Hello and welcome to lesson 13, where we're talking about advertising and PR. Now, advertising is where you are paying to drive audience or drive new interactions with new audience. And PR, or public relations, is where you are looking to drive activity and audience through other people's means that is not paid or sometimes not paid. Now, most of the time when people talk about ads, they automatically default to the social media ads like Facebook, Google, etc. But it's more than that. There's billboards, there's magazines, there's placement on park benches, bus stops, all sorts of things. And everybody has heard the horror stories where someone has blown thousands and thousands of dollars of ads and gotten nowhere. Well, quite often that's because they haven't effectively targeted, they haven't effectively researched where they're going to put their ad, and maybe they haven't planned their investment effectively. Advertising, maybe they tried doing a one-off billboard for a period of time and then wonder why they get no traction because nobody's interested. Marketing is a number of things tied together, or perhaps you need to do advertising for a period of time before more people start to really inculcate that understanding. So you can't try a little bit over there, try a little bit over here, try a little bit somewhere else, and then figure out why it's not really working because you've really only just scratched the surface of what the value of advertising is. Advertising should be a long-term project where you are building audience awareness of your brand, you're capturing new attention, and you're educating the customer on new problems perhaps they didn't realize they had. Or maybe they have the problem but they can't name it, they can't put a finger on what it is. They're just frustrated by something. And that's problem aware versus solution aware. So problem aware is, I know what the problem is. I know there's a problem somewhere and you need to make them aware, put a name to it. And then solution aware is aware of your particular solution and how that solution can solve their problem. By doing those two things with advertising, then you're going to reach a whole new set of audience that perhaps might have been slow to approach if you're doing the networking approach, or if you're sending out mail into people's addresses that you already collected in some other form. So advertising helps to generate new interest and new audience. I once spoke with a lawyer that put up a billboard and they ran this ad and they moved it several times. And after moving it like 5 or 6 times and spending something like $16,000, it significantly set back that business because one, it went too hard too soon. You don't need to do above the line marketing if you're a small business. Above the line marketing is very present. Maybe McDonald's might just be able to put an M on a billboard and people will know exactly what that is and think of McDonald's. And the next time they happen to see one, they'll turn up. So that omnipresent branding where everyone is already aware of the product, that's just more reminders. Where below the line or smaller scale marketing is where you really need to capture, give attention, show the value, and convert in one go, or in a series of small, very targeted attempts. So you might target a small audience in a small location before you go broad and try to get everybody driving past a particular place. And generally, things like a billboard is not something I would recommend to a small company that's starting out. Maybe if you're in very localized type of business, like real estate, then a couple of billboards make sense. But generally, a billboard is really something that is the culmination of a number of other things in your marketing suite. They might see a magazine ad, a Facebook ad, walk past a sign on a window, and then see a billboard and go, oh, those people. That's when that moment drops. But unless you have all those other marketing pieces in place, the billboard is the last thing I would be considering. But if you understand your market and you have the budget for it, for a sustained program, as in you need to be doing this for a few months. 3 to 6 months is not unheard of as a test campaign. Sometimes people do sustainment marketing where they might do month on, month off, month on, month off over a period of time. And then towards the season where it's most likely to sell, then they'll go hard for a couple of months in a row. For example, a retail store might do month on, month off, month on, month off. And then in the 2 months leading up to Christmas or a major sales period, they might just go all out on marketing and increase the volume. So a sustainment campaign is a way to generate new consistent audience, but you also need to think about the level of market penetration. So you can't just do occasional ads in very small areas that are different every time. You need that person seeing that ad on a semi-regular basis to be able to consume that marketing into their brain. And once they've done that, then they're more likely to be receptive or be aware of that brain or be aware of that service or your brand. So when it becomes apparent that they need that particular thing, you are the one that comes to mind. So one of the most important things that I can stress with marketing is start with a little bit. Don't go spending 20 grand in one go on something that you think is good or that you think will work. Most marketers spend a hell of a lot of time and money on research before the market or before the ad ever plays. Major companies spend millions of dollars to not run ads. They'd much rather spend that much money to figure out whether an ad should or should not run rather than to spend money on distributing the ad when it's not for the right customer, or it offends people, or it damages the brand in some way. You need a bit of a test group. Start sending out your marketing or your proposed ads. Come up with 50 different versions, and yes, a high volume of alternative versions to the ad that you want to run. Share them out with a few people. Social media is great for testing in that you can test the colors, the audience type, the content, the words, the images. Those sorts of things are really easy to test in low cost ways. For example, you can run a $2 a month or $2 a day ad on something like Facebook and then be able to figure out who's clicking, who's watching, what are they doing, and is it actually getting cut through? And you might do 50 ad sets, find 3 or 4 that are actually performing really well. You can delete all the others, and then you can just double down on the ones that are working. So you should be really keen on testing 100 different variations before you even consider pumping dollars into your marketing ad spend. It might be as down to the type of picture there. So I ran an ad recently and I had one picture with just me in it, and then I had another picture with a whole group of people. And the one that had a whole group of people, or several different variations that had whole groups of people, seemed to carry more interest in that it looked like other people were also interested in what I had to say or what I was doing. So it showed me that I needed to create more ads with other people in them because it shows social proof. It shows people that are interested in what we're doing rather than just me saying, I can do this thing for you. Now, with online advertising, not only are you thinking about the advertising, you're also thinking about what happens next. The conversion, the landing page they go to, the experience they have. Is it simple? Is it hard? The less clicks, the better. Some websites spend millions of dollars trying to figure out how to do less clicks. You've got Amazon with one-click buy. eBay is doing a pretty good job of that, and a number of other websites. So less is more. Another thing to do with the quality of advertising is you need to make sure you stand out and you're actually looked at. Sometimes when people advertise in magazines, and I've done this, you get this tiny little tile and it's way down in the bottom corner, and that's the first page people just absolutely flick past at 1,000,000 miles an hour. No one is looking for your tile. No one is looking to see your logo and a phone number. It gives me no reason to pick up the phone and actually call you. Unless it was a directory, like a Yellow Pages or a White Pages, which is a phone book here in Australia. But the ad needs to have a credible reason for me to want to pick up the phone. So I wouldn't do anything less than a quarter-page ad if you're in a magazine. And a full-page ad is great if you really want to call attention to something, but it can be quite expensive. So you then need to think about frequency. So maybe if you're a quarter-page ad on a regular basis, and think about where you are. There's no point selling business stuff and then being in the sports section. You probably want to sell business stuff and be in the business section. People need to see that you need to catch people in the right frame of mind. So you need to be in a place when they see your advertising, they're receptive to it. They're not going to go and call you if it's not relevant to them. They're not going to pay attention to it. They'll just be in a different frame of mind, even if they're the right person, and then they're not going to buy from you. Now, a massive problem with advertising is a digital attribution bias. Now, that's a fancy word to say that the digital attribution is, where did the sale come from, or where did the interaction come from? Oh, we clicked this button online. Therefore, that's where we should spend all our money. But sometimes people miss the point that maybe they've seen you in 3 or 4 different places. Maybe they walked past the billboard, they read you in the magazine, they heard about you from a friend, and then they saw you on the app or in the social media channel, and then they click the ad there. So that tends to make people think that everything happened through that online means. And so people pump a hell of a lot more ads through online. And the only reason why is because of that feedback loop. You can't see when someone reads a magazine and goes, aha, unless they pick up the phone and call you and you ask them, hey, how did you hear about us? Oh, I read about you in this magazine. Sometimes people don't even know. They might have read you 5 times over and they can't remember the first time they saw your ad. They can't remember what it was that triggered. They just went, oh, I called you, I found your number somewhere. So you're not always going to get clear, clean information. It is helpful to have that question in your sales script or in your sales process to understand and get an indication of where these data points are coming from or where these customers are coming from. But because you get really good analytics on social media, it often means that there's a bias towards the fact that social media was the thing that people used when they went to buy from you. The other thing is there might be different types of ads. You might have awareness ads, engagement ads, and call to action ads. Now, this happens across all mediums, but quite often people talk about it through social media because it's a lot easier to demonstrate. So an awareness ad might be a video. Just watch this video. You don't have to click anything. There's no link. There's no download. There's no nothing. And then another one might be an engagement video, like a survey, or maybe it's not a video, maybe an engagement piece, like a survey. Click this button and let us know whether you think A, B, or C. That's an engagement. Or comment yes, please, to find out more, or comment something, or share this with your friend. That helps people interact with your brand and reduce that risk that helps people interact with your brand and build relationship. And then the call to action is click now to download the thing, or give us your email, or fill out the lead page and we'll get in touch with you. But you shouldn't just do CTAs or calls to action. You shouldn't just do engagement. You shouldn't just do brand awareness. You need to do all of those things at different times so that maybe every 3rd or 4th or 5th message is when they're getting that call to action. But you've demonstrated value, you've built relationship, and now you're asking them to do something. Now, when you're thinking about digital media, you often think about written or online posts, but then you've got things like television and radio. Now, having a presence on those could be useful to your brand, particularly if you're very focused on your target audience, what it is they like, the frequency of contact. But for those mediums to work, you need to be there for at least 3 months, and you need to be ready to spend for the number of exposures you have also need to be at the right time frames with the right audiences. You don't want to be, at the 3 a.m. special every morning, because almost no one is going to watch it, or if they do, they're not receptive. So you probably want to go for a decent placement, mornings when people are driving to work, if it's radio, or if it's in a particular channel that your audience, no point being on the kids channel if you sell a grown-up product, and vice versa. So you want to make sure that the audience that you have is relevant for the medium with which you are doing it. Now, you can do short little ad read-ins or 15-second pieces, or something that just really introduces the idea, but you probably need something big enough to capture attention and then a few smaller points to remind. That coordinated effort is going to have a much deeper impact than if you just did one big ad, or if you just did small snippets brought to you by so-and-so, for example. Now, let's get into PR. PR, or public relations, is marketing advertising that is not generated specifically by you, but you can influence it. Now, PR can be done in a number of ways. You can often have advertorials where you pay for a specific article to be written about you. Now, there is certain disclosure requirements, so it is an advertorial. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to be a guest and a knowledgeable expert on a particular topic. So that might be that you're answering a question, or maybe that you are a podcast guest or a radio guest or a TV guest or something like that, where you get positioning and you get to say your piece. It may not be specifically about your business, but it might be about something that you are innately aware of or are an expert on, but at least it gives you the pedestal or the position for you to then be able to be known in the community for that knowledge, for that experience. So PR can happen a number of ways. You can do a PR brief or press release, or maybe there are certain websites you can list your expertise on, and you can build media connections. Media connections help to be the go-to resource for particular topics. media presenters like to have these people ready to go because it helps them fill content space when they have a particular issue come up. They might call you and say, hey, you able to speak on this topic at this time for this long? Could be 30 seconds, but the exposure is very worthwhile. The faster you can get to a PR kind of space, the better, because it's marketing that you didn't have to pay for. Sadly, one of the best examples of PR was a Formula One accident, and there was a cigarette brand in the background. The amount of marketing coverage that that cigarette brand got because of that accident was phenomenal. It wasn't that they paid for that marketing, it was kind of accident. They didn't do anything. Yes, they paid for sponsorship on the race, but that ad or that car crash was played over and over and over on a multitude of channels, reaching billions of people. Now, I say that's sad because it's a car crash and it was very unfortunate, but the fact that that brand was co-positioned, and not necessarily associated with the incident. Yes, smoking is bad, don't do it. But the point is that the PR from that, or the public relations exposure, was significant. And the cost, other than the placement for that ad on the wall, was no extra. They reached billions of people for just the cost of their expectation to reach maybe 5,000 people that turned up to this event. So you can understand the value of creating a public relations media strategy in helping to extend your brand in a way that is someone else speaking about your brand, or you speaking about your brand in a passive third-party way that's not you directly promoting yourself, which generally has a much better impact and cut through to anybody that's listening. Another way to do this is business awards. Now, I would be careful not to go for too many business awards because these tend to just be a cycle of money generation and not just always about you and celebrating your efforts. You can often seem like just another piece on the production line of awards ceremonies going through. So you need to be a little bit selective about the awards that you go for. But awards can be a great exposure to people that you didn't know before, or when other people see that you've got some form of awards or accolades, it helps to contribute to some form of social proof that you exist beyond that page or that web page. So by using awards as a PR piece, that can help to build your reputation and build your audience without directly advertising per se. Anyway, thank you for watching this lesson and keep an eye out for the next one.